take it too far to say that we cannot pretend now. Was it never enough to have just everything you want? In your shadow I found a place to hide me from my own thoughts. And if I ever got lost, you'll find a way to bring me home. And I want something I can hold that's worth this waiting cold. And I want something that is real, something to make me feel alive.
I do need you.
Everything we've been through makes us strong enough. You and I, you and I. Everything we've been through makes us strong enough. You and I, you and I.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RFDL Post-Draft Podcast. I'm Ecliptic Fades. Excuse the voice, as I am a little bit sick today, but I am joined by Firestreak and Docky. How are we doing tonight, guys?
Doing good.
Hello, Fade. How are you doing? We're doing good. You're doing good. It's time for another podcast.
Well, I would say I'm doing good, but I am currently stuck with the flu for the last couple of days, so I have been in and out of consciousness for the last little bit, so we're gonna do this the best that we can, guys. But tonight, as you can see, it is a post-draft RFDL podcast, so we're just gonna be going over what we saw in the draft, what the teams are going into the season ahead, and we did have a tier list sent to us. Thank you, and big shout out to Sam, who sent us that tier list, and we're going to be ranking all the teams with how we think they're going to be doing going into the season, not having any results so far just yet, besides maybe a little bit of scrim results that we've heard through the grapevine. But guys, the RFDL draft happened on Saturday, and it was surprising to say the least. I think that many of us were shocked by some of the picks that were made.
Yeah, I was sorry to cut you off, Fire, but I had anticipations, and some of it went the way that I did, that I had kind of assumed. I know we did our prediction stream. I think some of those landed about where I thought they would, but yeah, there's a lot of twists and turns, I think, that had domino effects on the later rounds. It caused some teams, I think, to have to do some last minute changes, which was interesting to see. I mean, that's how these draft streams always kind of go, where you have to kind of make changes as things happen. So it was it was definitely fun to witness.
I mean, Docky, you just took the words right out of my mouth, dang. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. There were definitely some last second adjustments being made, especially by the managers going into that second half of that second round, and I think it was very interesting, to say the least, to see where everyone ended up and who ended up getting picked up where. So yeah, I think the rest of speculation could be left for later, unless Fade has something to add.
I mean, we're about to go ahead and look at the picks there, but as you guys said, very choice decisions were made that were quite shocking. I think not just to me, but the rest of the desk as well. And some of them turned out to be really good choices. Some of them turned out to be not so good. And we'll go ahead and take a look at those first two rounds of drafts here right now. Let's talk about the big thing that we've been talking about here on the desk for a little bit right now, and that is going to be pick number 3, Lumosity going straight in with the Aeroax pick. First off, and Docky, you were talking about earlier how Aeroax getting picked first round so early on had very huge implications on the rest of the draft, and I'd just like to, probe your head on more of exactly how big of an implication it was that Aeroax got picked so early.
Yeah, I'll head that off with saying it is a gamble. And I know that with drafting budgets, it's so hard trying to get those numbers dialed in. And I know we had kind of mentioned this before, at least in the Discord, we had mentioned this, that with the goal going forward with the budget that we had set, that had been set, was trying to keep it so that you could have a balanced team if you wanted to. So you could group some GC2s and then a GC2 with some GC1s. That way, we didn't have any overpowered teams with a SSL or a GC3 kind of overpowering some of the balanced teams. And then those teams were going for maybe the C3 C1 route or maybe the C3 C2 route. And I think going with a more top heavy with Vise or Avid being GC2, trying to get that early GC3 with limiting yourself to one of the 6 available C1 D3 options to fall back in the very late being the third pick. So you'd have to wait a long time until you get to pick again for that C1 option. And then we had other teams that had the same idea of going for C3 C2 or for the SSLs who needed those C1s regardless, or at least the D3s regardless. So it was definitely a gamble, hoping that no one else would do that, but other teams seem to have gone that route as well. So it did not play out, I think, in the way that Avid wanted, unfortunately, but that is kind of the risk you take going that top heavy early on and hoping that you get one of those players in the later rounds of that second round. So yeah, it definitely had a domino effect for sure.
I mean, yeah, that was definitely a surprise to me. I thought that Vise was going to play that draft a little bit more carefully with that third pick, but I mean, he took a risk and it may not have played out like he wanted it to, but I still think that they're going to have a pretty competitive team to field this season. So that's definitely something. Kind of a quiet pick that I don't think has been talked about as much was that second round pick by Yuki. I think that one was definitely an interesting one, seeing him opt for a Diamond 3 rather than a Champ 2, which is what his budget would have allowed for. So I definitely think that was interesting and compounded to have some implications going down the road. So
yeah, I have to agree with that one, and I was actually about to bring that up, Fire. So with BDS picking the Diamond 3 second round, as you said, definitely could have fit a C2 into the budget there, and it really confused me at first, and it did have some major implications going along through the draft, as I think we remember Heavenly getting picked up by Protogen Rebellion, and talking to Vise later on, or Avid later on in the draft, that was basically their thought on who they were going to try and pick up to allow Avid to get a spot onto the team. And because Rue the Fuzzy was picked up so early, it had a cascading effect whereby the time that it was time for Lumimosity to pick, everyone that was low enough was already taken, so he wasn't going to be able to pick anybody. But it was very interesting to see BDS do that, and I still kind of wonder what the draft would have looked like if instead of going with the Diamond 3, if Yuki would have picked that C2. Of course, I haven't seen any scrim results from BDS just yet, so I can't really determine on whether or not that was a great pick or not for the team, but I'm sure it will work out regardless, and they'll have plenty of budget going forward for subs and the like, so it could be a very smart pick in case of a sub being needed. Docky, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's I mean, I think like Fire alluded to, I think the teams will be fine in the long run, especially with long seasons, so there's a lot of chemistry that can be built and teams can get better at kind of getting there into their rotations, but it's one of those things where there might be some decision making that goes on behind the scenes where certain players are more fitting. I think obviously players do their research, so there could be something that I think might have gone beyond the initial kind of predictions that goes into that research for what you want out of a team. So at the end of the day, I mean, you got a team now that you gotta work with, and obviously he's got coaching experience. So I think everyone will be. I think both those teams will be fine. Specifically BDS and Lumosity, but it's definitely interesting to watch that play out. I think live in the draft at that moment. So
Yeah, I have to agree. And before we move on to the third round picks, I want to talk about one more pick in particular, which I think surprised all of us at the time as it came out. And just as a little hint, Yuki did say that their main pick was Vezix, and we are going to talk about Vezix here. Getting picked first round by Hammer for Black Bunny Gaming. I think that shocked all of us, to say the least. Do you guys think that's a really good pick going into their round one?
I think for that price point, Vezix under the right coach has an incredible amount of potential, and I think Hammer could definitely be that for him. Even like people that I don't think are familiar with Vezix, people that have kind of popped into in-houses or I've always heard like the mentality of like, well, this person's fairly mechanical, they're definitely aggressive. This is a highly skilled mechanical C1, so I think that was seen. I'm not super surprised by it. I think that's probably one of the better C1s you could have picked. And Hammer going for that, it doesn't necessarily surprise me now in retrospect. At the moment, for sure, definitely, I don't think any of us predicted that, but I agree with that pick 100%.
So I think Vezix is a very interesting pick for sure. I think it's the way his season is going to play out is going to be determined by his mental and whether or not he's able to take coaching from somebody like Hammer or maybe even Sam. You never know. Maybe Sam might have some pointers too. But yeah, I feel like his entire season is going to be determined by whether or not he's able to just take those coaching points, maybe adjust some things in his rotation just to the threes meta a bit more than what we've seen out of him in the Combine. And if he's able to do that, he's may turn into the best C1, maybe even up there with the C2s and C3s this season, because his mechanics are there. He definitely has an aggressive mentality. He has that, like, he has the instinct to really put himself into some really good plays, but might find himself just a little bit out of position oftentimes, and if he's just able to fix up that positioning a little bit, he's going to be that pick in the first round is going to age really well for Hammer. So I'm optimistic about it. I think he'll do just fine, especially making the switch from being a Switch player, Switch Lite no less, to PC. I think will do him really well as well. So
okay,
yeah, Fade.
Oh yeah.
How you feeling? How are you feeling about that pick?
I feel like it's a good pick, but I don't want to give Black Bunny Gaming any more tips on how to become a dominant team in the league. I'd like to keep them as in the middle of the field as possible. So Vezix, just demo chase your heart out and don't worry about positioning at all. And you know what? It's just going to work out for you guys because you have Hammer anyway, and he's just going to go up and score the ball no matter what any other team does. So don't worry about coaching or nothing. Just, just do you, buddy. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about round 3 of the draft, as we didn't really see too many standout picks there. Obviously, round 3 is where the managers get to pick themselves, so you will see most of the managers did go ahead and do that. But I do want to talk specifically about Protogen Rebellion picking up Turtles. I think that's going to be a very excellent pick, and it only occurred to me after the draft was done that we're going to see Static and Turtles on the same team, which is a GC2 and a GC3 that have very different mentalities on how to play the game. Now, I'm kind of wondering what your guys' thoughts are on how those two are going to mesh in that Protogen Rebellion squad.
So, I think it's going to mesh really well, personally, just because you have Static to really lock down that backline defense. He's very much just a really solid option. Like, I would know, he was on my team last year, but he's just really solid. You know exactly what you're going to get from him week in, week out, and he's just really consistent. And then Turtles, I mean, he's Turtles. Like, he's insane. Need I say more? Like, he's insanely mechanical. He could make some really good plays. And honestly, I think saving that pick for last was kind of a really smart move by Rai. I mean, don't let her rank fool you. She may only be gold, but I think she's already showing that she can be a really good manager, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I will say I think the biggest advantage that that team has is that you have two players that are very well versed in threes, and static and turtles. We've talked about the clashing rotations, possibly with both of them being more rotational thirdmen. Set with static liking to play a little bit more controlled, and turtles I think being kind of rank higher, but also looking for that same playstyle. But turtles is a very good player. And I mean static is as well. Those two are high ranked enough to be able to, I think, play around each other without having too much. I don't think there's gonna be much clashing there rotation wise. I think those two will be able to make a rotation that's intelligent, and that'll work for them. So yeah, that team will be very good, I think, down the road. They're gonna. I haven't seen them play personally, but my guess is that with the ability to, with the threes experience, at least with the two of them, and then I think is Heavenly correct? As the third on that?
Yes.
Yeah, that team's gonna be good. So, specifically for that team, yeah, they won't have to worry at all about any sort of clashing playstyles. I think both those two are high ranked enough to be able to work around each other in threes.
Yeah, now I do want to ask a little bit of an impromptu question to you guys before we move off of the draft. What do you guys think was the best pick of the draft, in your guys' opinion? Like, when you look at who got picked, which one do you think is the best pick in from your guys' perspective? It's a tough question.
Like pick considering like round and rank and value, like all that stuff.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, so that's a really, really good question. Actually,
it's me picking myself. I'm just kidding. That is a tough one. If I could give a serious answer to that question, and not just because of the way that it affected me, because now that we're in this more laid back, not in the draft stream, I can be very open about my draft pick being sniped for me. I think Shy in the first round is a great pick. I think that is one of the best GC ones you could pick for an offensive player to play along with that playstyle. I think Krub's a really, really good, really good offensive player, but also a really good setup man. So Shy being on that team is a great pick, and I think they're gonna do really well with it. So I'm gonna say that for me personally.
I personally think kind of a pick that flew under the radar a bit, and I personally did not have this person lasting this long in pretty much any of my mock drafts, but Gala falling all the way down to the late second round, I think especially at that GC1 rank, which is right around the middle, I think is a really good pick by Vise, considering the situation he was in. And I think that Gala being paired up with somebody like Arilax has some pretty scary implications. And I think that they have the potential to work really well with each other this season. But that's kind of one that I felt was pretty solid. And I think that was... I mean, especially seeing what Gala did last year, especially just being able to maintain so much pressure on the opposing team, I think that's a really solid pick that late in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
Fade, what do you think? What was your going under the radar really solid pick?
I have to say I think it's going to be it's a tough one because there's so many good players. I think it's going to be Kiki on Dignipaws. I think Kiki was really underrated a little bit from the Combine. They played really well, and I thought that they would be round 1 pick for sure. Making it all the way to almost the end of round 2 kind of surprised me, and I think it's going to work out really good for Dignipaws.
It's so crazy to think. Like, last season, Fade, you were the only cheesy one in the entire league, like manager not. and then we went from that to having what is it, like 8, I think, GC ones.
Yeah.
It's such a saturated. It's so saturated with fantastic grand champs. So, yeah, it's I all of them got drafted, I think, and that's really cool to see. A lot of them are really good. So I would say all of them are really good, but in their specific teams at least, a lot of them are fitting. I think fitting really well into those lineups. So happy to see that for sure.
Given how the draft played out, I think those GC1 and C3 picks are a little bit underrated, because in the case that any of those are maybe struggling to find their rotations on a team, or maybe there's just a little bit of awkwardness between players there, I think that Factual is a great person that anybody can pick up at any time for those, especially around those middle ranks. And I think that I think that at some point Factual will be seeing some playtime this season, and I'm really excited to see like what situation brings that into fruition. So hopefully we'll get to see more Factual play this season, because I really did not see Factual going the entire draft without being picked. I think that's a little bit insane.
I think that is a shocker to all of us. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I would ask you guys the worst pick of the draft, obviously, but we all know what that is. That would be the round pick by the round 3 pick by I think it was Cloud9, some Ecliptic Fades or someone. Obviously, terrible pick. Not even the first weekend, and they're already 6. So I expect that for the rest of the season. They're going to be playing like trash. You know, I'm sorry.
I don't know
just
about
how the rules go.
I think Gentle Paws choosing a Fire over Factual is really sus there. I think it's that's a terrible choice.
I think I can guarantee Fairs will probably score the most amount of goals if you forget which goals are scored on.
As long as you gray out the montage, they'll never know it was on your own goal. And that's my philosophy when it comes to my montages. So
exactly.
I think that's fine. But let's go ahead. What we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to go ahead and talk just about the teams in general, show off some of those player cards. Now, I will let everybody know that these player cards are not necessarily final. We have had a lot of players suggest edits to their cards, and being sick, I have not had the time to edit them into the team pages yet. So what you guys are going to be seeing here tonight are not necessarily final. They will look different come week 1, but we just want to go ahead and talk about the full teams in general. And we'll just start off with Big Dragon Squad, Maxi, Rue, and Yuki. And, you know, I just want to know your guys' general thoughts on each of the teams as we go through, what you think their play styles are going to be, and how you think they're going to fare early on in the league.
I mean, everything is open to questions, since the most important thing is how do you rotate around each other? How do you necessarily mesh with each other? But I do think that Big Dragon Squad has the potential to be like one of those big underdog stories. I mean, they're the team with the most amount of budget left over this season. A little bit like Gentle Paws was last season. So I think they have a really good opportunity to kind of sneak under the radar from a lot of the other teams and, you know, make some waves in the league. So hopefully they will be able to. I've heard some pretty good things from their scrims, so hopefully they're able to beat expectations and really show up in the league.
Yeah,
Docky, how are you feeling?
I mean, I feel like there was a lot of potential with it, and there is a lot of potential with this lineup. I know that just on budget wise, it's considered underpowered. But I mean, if there's anyone that can pull this team to high performance, it's going to be Yuki. So I think they'll fare pretty well. I haven't seen much from them personally in terms of scrims or anything, or how they've been playing in threes. But my guess is that, I mean, Maxi seems, from what I've seen in their community games, pretty good at adjusting to teammates, and then Yuki the same from last season and from the games that we've played together. So I think that team will do really well.
So I do think that they're gonna play pretty decent. just seeing the thing that worries me about the team is seeing two very mechanical players on it in Yuki and Maxi. Makes me think that their third player in Rue the Fuzzy might be overshadowed a little bit, and you also have to worry about what we saw early last season with, we always like to talk about it, but with Corrupt's team early on in the season, where they had two very strong players that would go up for offense all the time and leave their weaker third man on defense, and it was costing them series. And you gotta wonder if a squad like this might subconsciously allow that to happen while they're trying to pull off their mechanical plays. They might leave Rue the Fuzzy back a little bit. And if they both get beaten on that line, will they be able to get back in time to help protect the net? It's all up to speculation at this point, but I have heard some decent scrim results for the team, so I won't judge them based off of just those facts alone. But I definitely see them being a team that is going to be hard to figure out until you actually play them, which is very dangerous in my opinion. But let's go ahead and start talking about our next team, which is going to be Black Bunny Gaming. And Black Bunny Gaming going to have Vezix, Hammer, and Sam. And I think before last Saturday, this was not a team that I had envisioned for Black Bunny Gaming. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
Yeah, this definitely has the potential to be a repeat, I think, of last season's Black Bunny, with the same kind of playstyle. But I think the only thing they have that goes against them is that I think people are more ready to expect that. The kind of setup for Hammer to solo play or to pass and disrupt. I think if they're able to adjust to that and anticipate people trying to counter that, I think they'll do really, really well. And I think they have the potential to do that. Again, it's three players that I think have a lot of potential. The ceiling for all three of them is really, really high. I mean, Hammer has already hit the ceiling, being the highest rank in the game. But yeah, it's definitely a good squad. Definitely there's a lot of highs that I think this team can hit. So we'll have to see if they can hit that. They have a lot of time to be able to prove that they can. We'll just have to see if they can get their rotations in line.
So this is a team that I could see being... It's one of those teams that I think they have a super high skill ceiling, but I also see them being one of those teams that can win against pretty much everyone, but they could also lose to pretty much everyone, just depending on how well teams are able to get big clears against them. Because, I mean, as much as they were an aggressive team last season, they're even more so this season. So, I mean, they're one of those teams I feel like week on week, especially in the beginning of the season, they could either be beating teams really big, but they could also be losing some games that we would expect them to win. So I think that they're going to work out all right this season. I do have them projected to go into the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be quite the dominant force they were last season, but there's definitely no team to scoff at either. So, Fade, what do you think of that?
Well, I have to agree with your last statement. They're definitely, after playing them in scrims, I can definitely say they are not the Black Bunny Gaming of old. But that is mainly because our rank checking team has done so good this season at actually getting the right ranks for all of our players that we don't have as many. I don't think we have any super top heavy teams this season that could just dominate. And Black Bunny Gaming, when I did play them in scrims, they were very aggressive heavy. Hammer is still playing up to his usual potential, so that's not going to change. But the difference in teammates is going to be something for Hammer to have to take into consideration. I'm sensing that he might need to start playing a little bit more defensive minded in his series if they want to take wins. Now, based on scrim results that he has shared with me, they are still technically winning series. However, it is by much more slim margins than they were winning during season 0. And as you said, I think that they could beat every single team in this league, but I also think that every other team in this league has a good chance to beat them. So I definitely think that they're going to have to work pretty hard to keep up their consistency and try to figure out exactly what's going to work against each team. And I don't think that we're going to see as dominant of a lead as they used to have in Season 0. I think that they're going to be, you know, actually having to fight for their spots, which is very exciting to see. It's not going to be a boring one team is at the top season this year. I think that any team going into this will be able to take that top spot. So let's talk about another team who might be able to take the top spot, and that is going to be Cloud9. No bias whatsoever, but we are going to have Voltic, Devil, and Fades there, and I can't really give too much opinion on this team because I'm a part of it, so I'll just leave that to you guys.
Yeah, I mean... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ducky.
This is one of the few league teams that we've scrimmed. And so I can definitely say that it's balanced for sure. And there's not really anyone on that team that is I'd say a weak link. Voltec is
Besides Fades, you mean?
No. No. Voltec is a very, very good player. I think definitely the kind of like the breakthrough in terms of scoring. And then you have just a well-rounded defense and a well-rounded passing option. So it's definitely a good team. It's not, I think, what any of us had predicted. But the Kim seems to be there. So we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, all of this is vibe-based at the moment since we haven't had any sort of league matches yet. But I think that will be it'll be interesting to see how that team the more balanced teams as we seem to have will play itself out in the league.
I mean, I might have a little bit of insider information on this team since we did scrim Cloud9 already. We did have a Gentle Paws versus Cloud9 scrim, and it was a very close series. I think Cloud9 is definitely going to be a solid team this year. I have them definitely kind of in that top half of the league, and they don't really have any clear weaknesses, and I think that can serve them very well because a lot of the times, especially this season, with a lot of the teams, they might have somebody in the lower champ or diamond ranks that you can try to isolate and then, let, your high rank grand champ player just kind of cook. But with them, you don't really get those opportunities, and I think that they will perform very strongly, especially against these teams that are a bit more top-heavy. And I think that they'll still be competitive against the more middle-of-the-road teams that went for a more balanced approach. So, overall, solid team.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Thank you for saying that, guys. Obviously, I don't need to give my opinion. I picked that team for a reason, and I think that it's going to turn out really well. Just a few bumps and hiccups in the road. I will say that I'm not the only one on the team sick right now, so we're not necessarily playing at our best. But when we are playing at 100%, I think I'm just going to give a warning to you guys. I think we're going to be a good team. So let's go ahead and talk about the next team. Get off of this bias casting, as it were. Let's talk about Dignipause. And Docky, in particular, you have said some really interesting things about this team so far.
Yeah, I'm desk slamming myself for this one. This is one of my S ranked tiers. I'll give myself away a little bit. This is one of my top rated teams at this moment. I will glaze Sylvie. I will not lie. Sylvie is one of my favorite players to play with, and also just incredibly talented. But then we did some twos with me and T-Bar did some twos against Runesky and Kilo. And I was genuinely surprised by how good at the game Kilo was. And I don't know if they're getting coaching, but they are way more intelligent than your average mid-range champ player. The challenges are really, really smart. The rotations are really good. They seem to be on the ball constantly when they need to be. Everything seems to be calculated. So, way smarter than your average champ player. Your average low to mid-range champ player is going to be. and just mechanical as well. I mean, we're talking about speed flips, wall dashes, fast aerials, stuff that you don't generally see at that rank. Yeah, that is going to be a terrifying team to play against. You have a high mechanical player like Sylvie, that's a ex-freestyler, ex-professional freestyler. Kiki, who's got a lot of mechs and is just all around a general good GC1, and then you have their lowest ranked player, seemingly able to just fit into those rotations and be way smarter than anyone else that I've seen play at that rank. So yeah, that team is going to be terrifying, I will say. I don't even have to scrim them to know that. Hopefully we will get some scrims against them, but yeah, my goodness.
So that's a team that, other than Sylvie, I really haven't seen a whole lot from either Kiki or, I believe it's Kilo, right?
Yes.
Fade?
Yes.
So yeah, both of those players I haven't really seen much from, other than some sparse replays I've seen pop up on ball chasing from them. But overall, it seems to me that both Kiki and Kilo are really solid players for the rank, and then Sylvie is also a really solid player. Admittedly, when I made the tier list, I hadn't really checked them out yet, so I kind of threw them in as a wildcard team of I have no idea where they're going to end up, so we're just going to put them where I put them. But yeah, I feel like that's a team that, depending on how well they're able to mesh together, they have a very high skill ceiling, and I'm hopeful to see them do some good things this season. Fade, what do you have to say about them?
I definitely think it's a very interesting team. I think, obviously the first pick of Sylvie on that team is going to go extremely well for them. Sylvie, known as one of our best GC3s in the league, as far as I know. And I haven't really seen them play, I think, at all. So I can't really tell how they're going to be except by looking at them on paper. And on paper, they look like a really strong team. So I expect them to do well. I want to see what their first week looks like. I can't remember who they're going to be playing in week 1, but I think no matter what, they will probably have a good showing. Once I see them play during that first week, I can get more of a grasp on how the team's going to function. But until then, they're kind of in the same place where I have Fire with them as a little bit of a wild card. They could go really, really high in the league. They could also go really low in the league if the chemistry isn't there. So it's just going to see how they do in the first couple of weeks and make a decision based off of that. I think it's almost time to talk about our next team. It is, and I'm actually excited about this team. I haven't seen any scrim results coming in from these guys yet, but Fox Clan, tiny bit of bias because this was the team I used to manage, and also Taka is on the team. But also, I still really love the JV and Taka combo. And as we said on the draft stream, I think this is going to be a very chill team, adding in Cosmo as the third. And I just want to know what you guys think.
I mean, yeah, the JV and Taka combination is always going to be a bit of a more chill, yet still very scary team. This team has a really high skill ceiling. I just want to see how well Cosmo is going to be able to back up those first two, because I could see this team being as far as being like a top 2 or top 3 team in the league. I could also see them being middle of the pack. I feel like this is one of those teams that you want to keep your eye on because they could do a whole lot of things in this league. So, I mean, Taka Javian, what else needs to be said? Docky?
Yeah, it's tough. They have a very high ceiling. I think they could be incredibly good, and they could also not be. Again, as I mentioned before when we were talking about Cloud9, this is pure vibes, the predictions at this point. So there's a lot of potential there, but again, as we alluded to before, this is also a top-heavy team that is going to have to rely a lot heavily on a lower-ranked player to kind of pick up a lot of those awkward spots in those threes rotations. This is threes, so someone that is a little bit lower ranked, or in this case, a lot of it lower ranked than your GC3, GC2 combo, not fitting quite as quickly into those rotations as you would kind of expect in ranked, and come back to kind of bite you a little bit against maybe a more balanced team or maybe a more speedy team. So we'll see how that plays out, I think. But there is definitely a lot of potential for some magic to happen there. All three of them being very chill, and I think being able to adapt pretty well. I think it'll be good for them. But again, as like you kind of alluded to with the last season, having this kind of issue with top-heavy teams not doing as well as maybe they had anticipated, that is kind of there as well with being GC3, GC2, which is basically as top-heavy as you can get in this league. So we'll see how that goes, but I think they'll have a good time regardless. So
I have to agree there. I don't... Honestly, if there's one team that I could think would be very top-heavy and not have that problem, I think it's going to be this team. Taka is very rotational-minded, and I think that he's going to be able to use that strength to kind of facilitate a really good rotation for his team where offense and defense are played in a really good way. I definitely think that this team could be one of the top teams of the league. I don't know if I would say right now if I expect them to be the top of the league, but I think if any team could do it, Taka and Javian make an excellent duo, and I think that they're going to mesh well with Cosmo. So I would definitely predict Fox Clan at least getting a really good start to the season. But you might see them pretty decently high on my tier list later on. But we'll get to the tier list later. Let's talk about our next team here. It is going to be Gentle Paws, and that's going to be Strawberry, Melon, and Firestreak. And after scrimming this team, I can say they are quite a powerful team. They are not like the Gentle Paws of old, where it was very defensive heavy. They're very much in your face a lot more of the time, and they still do have the defense that the old Gentle Paws used to have. I can tell you during our scrims, they made some incredible saves as well as some very impressive shots, and I think that this is going to be the Gentle Paws that they wanted to be at the end of Season 0, where they had a very balanced kind of attack-defense mix. And I'm definitely excited to see how far this takes them as the team. Docky, what do you think about them?
Yeah, there's a lot of potential here, I think. You have, I would say, 3 very different players. Melon is a very aggressive, kind of ball chasey type of player, likes to be on the ball, but also pretty adaptable. Can kind of change that play style up if needed. Strawberry, as we saw in the draft, is also aggressive, but not as ball chasey. More of a setup demo, make space for teammates to play the ball. And then Fire has been more aggressive last season, but overall I would say is more balanced, more rotational. I would say more of a game sense player than either of them. So I think the blueprints for a very solid team is there to make waves in the league. With Millen being in that GC3 rank, that definitely the lower end of GC3, but that is not to undersell Millen as a player. Millen has some crazy peaks and has hit some absolutely nuts shots. So yeah, I played a lot with Millen before. I actually played a lot with all 3 of them, and they're definitely nothing to scoff at. So that'll be, at the very least, a really fun team to watch, and I think we'll have a lot of potential to do well.
Fire, do you have any unbiased opinions?
Totally unbiased. I think the if there's going to be a weak link, it's going to be that Firestreak guy. I heard he can be a little bit inconsistent at times, but we'll need to see how he's able to fit in. But no, Melon's correct. Strawberry is Strawberry. She's goated. So yeah, that's all I'll say.
Well, if I remember correctly, I heard that this Firestreak guy was actually competing with Fades for the Own Goal of the Season award. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Let's go. I mean, all I can say about that is I heard those 2 scrimmed, and Fades already is up 1 on that one. No. So,
I mean, if we count the ranked games I played today, I'm up 2. So, let's not talk about that. Let's just go ahead and talk about our next team, which is going to be Lumimosity. And I do have a little bit of information that I actually got from the chat here earlier. which also kind of brings up the point. So we were talking earlier on how the first pick of Aeroax kind of really set the draft up in a really weird way for a lot of teams. Along with Aeroax being that high tier of a pick, something that wasn't really discussed is that Aeroax is not on the desk today, as you guys might have seen, and that is because he's in a, I believe he's in like an acapella, not an acapella group, but he's in like a, I think it is an acapella group, now that I'm remembering correctly. And he's actually on tour for a whole week. So this whole week where all of the teams have been trying to scrim everybody else, Lumimosity hasn't really gotten the chance to take part in that. And I want to know your guys' thoughts on if that's going to affect the team going into week 1 of league play, being just a little bit behind everybody else on terms of getting that chemistry under control.
I think it definitely could. I think that there's the chance for that to happen. But I'm kind of hoping that since both Aeroax and Avi are the ones that kind of have scheduling limitations, that they're able to fill in for each other whenever needed. So hopefully they are still able to get some scrims in before the start of the season where, you know, one of those two are able to fill in for the other one. But regardless, I mean, just look at them. They're a really solid team, solid players on it. You know, 2 players at GC 1+ is definitely something to take note of, and also having a Howl there to back them up, I think they'll be just fine in the long run.
Yeah, in terms of scrums, I mean, it's every team's going to take scrums differently, so I don't think they'll be too far behind. As I think scrums have been pretty not sparse, but not as consistent. I mean, well, I'll say scrims have been popping off compared to last season. We're getting way more scrims in the first week than I think I've seen at all last season over the entirety of the season.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're gonna be too far behind. I think when Airlex gets back, I'm sure they'll get a ton of scrims in, and they'll have more than enough time to get their rotations locked in. Again, we've got a long season as well, so they might have a slower start, but I don't think it'll hurt them in the long run. As Fade alluded to, it might not have been the team that I think they initially had in mind, but I think that team will do fine. I mean, any team with Gala and Arrow on the same team with a solid third is going to be more than okay, and they have exactly that. So it'll be fun to see them when they can scrim, and we'll hope to get more insight on their team when they're able to, when Aerolex is back. But we know Gala, we know Aerolex, and we know they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I have to agree with that because my bad, sorry, something caught in my throat. But as I was trying to say before my sickness rudely interrupted me, I am very excited to see that team play because Aerolex has always done really well with a very aggressive second man. And I think Gala is kind of the epitome of that aggressive second man. If we saw, if their play on Black Bunny Gaming last season showed us anything. So I know what Aerolex could do with Liska and evolve their play. So I want to see exactly what they can do with Gala as well. Hopefully push them up to that higher level as well. And I definitely think that team could be a very strong contender. I do think that they are going to get off to a bit of a slower start, but as you said, Docky, this is a much, much longer season. So there's going to be plenty of time for them to get their chemistry going. And I think when they do get to 100%, they're going to pop off. They're going to pop off very hard. And I'm so excited to see that.
Yeah,
Let's go ahead and talk about our next team. Alata Gaming. That one is going to be Docky, T-Park, and Not Joe. And I gotta say, I believe, I know I've scrimmed them, Fire. And Not Joe was kind of the best pick I think Docky could have asked for in that second round. I know that they wanted Shy originally, and I think that would have looked like a very, very good team as well. However, playing this team, Najo has done so much for their rotation, and they're a very solid player. And I think that this team is looking to be a strong one, that's for sure. What do you think, Fire?
I mean, not to give away too much about my tier list, but I do have this team as the best team in the league that has the more balanced approach to the roster. So I think that this team is going to have really good rotations with each other. They're going to be able to hold like a lot of pressure against their opponents, and yeah, I think this team is a little bit terrifying. So I mean, there's nothing else to say about them. They're going to be a good team. Yeah, they're terrifying. So,
Thank you, thank you.
I mean, Docky, do you have any input? You might be a little bit biased, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's impossible to not be biased, right? When you're talking about your own team that you're trying to get ready into the season, but realistically, this is. I mean, this is exactly what I was hoping for: a balanced team where we can all kind of rely on each other to not hold specific rotations, to kind of be able to move around the pitch freely, as opposed to first man, second man, third man strictly. So yeah, I've got the best I could have asked for. Nacho has been an absolute doll to play with, and yeah, I'm very happy with my squad. So we're excited to play people.
Yeah, I think that team is going to do really, really well, and I'm very excited to see how they do. And speaking of a team that has the potential to do really, really well, what did I just say? Either way, let's talk about Protogen Rebellion here, as we did talk about them a little bit earlier. But Static, Turtles, and Heavenly, going to be a very interesting team to see play in these first couple of weeks.
so it's really good that we're going to be able to see Turtles play a lot this season, because last season we really didn't see much from them, but I'm super excited to see it. But personally, I think we kind of have a case of we have a goated manager here setting up a really good team. But yeah, I mean, Turtles and Static together, I think they're going to mesh really well together. This team has a bunch of goobers, and I think even if they come out to a slow start this season, just the pure vibe of the team is going to keep their mental up, and they're going to go far this season. So, not to give away too much, but yeah, I think they're going to be a very, very strong team this season. And I mean, it's easy to talk about Static and Turtles all day, but Heavenly coming in as that more support player is definitely going to serve them well. So yeah, they're not a dark horse this season. They're not one that's going under the radar. They're a strong team. So Docky, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, we had alluded to this when we were going over the draft stuff. I know there had been mention in terms of when the draft was happening of kind of maybe clashing playstyles, with both Static and Turtles being more rotation based, not super aggressive, more of a rotational player, kind of a solid, not third man, but solid player on the pitch that you can kind of expect to be there for the shot when it is available, and for to be able to be there on defense, and to be there as a cut on second man. But again, as I will repeat, as I said last time, these are both high ranked players that can work around rotations and threes. They both have enough experience in threes to know how to play around each other, and I think they're going to do that really, really well. I know that Faye, you had mentioned before that I think this is another one of those that's top heavy, right? They have a GC3, GC2. I know that you had said that Foxglen was maybe the best to be able to work around that, but in my opinion, I think this is probably one of the best teams to be able to work around that top heaviness. In that I think they're going to be able to play around each other really, really well. You got three players in Static, Turtles, and Heavenly that I think don't really stick to a specific play style in terms of, I mean, Static can be aggressive when he needs to. He can be a defensive player when he needs to be. Turtles the same way, can be a setup guy, really good in defense, really good on offense. And then Heavenly, also very aggressive, but also is really good on defense. So yeah, this team can be really solid. And at the same time, like Fire said, they're gonna have a really good time. I don't think they're gonna stress themselves out too much, which is really good for, I think, the three of them. Yeah, this team will be fun, and I think they're gonna do really, really well as well.
Yeah, I have to agree. I I can't wait for the storyline of Heavenly, honestly. Not having the best start to their RFDL career back in Season 0. They went on a grind. They've played so much with the old Gentle Paws, and they're looking like a whole different player now. And I definitely can't wait to see what they have to bring to the table on this squad. I definitely agree that I think that they're going to be able to work with that higher level roster pretty effectively. I just have to see them in action before I give any like pure judgment on it, but I think they're going to be a very good team going forward. So I'm very excited to see what they can bring out. Let's go ahead and talk about our next team, which is going to be Persian 1, and that's going to be Hayes, Drake, and Golden. And honestly, I don't really have too much to say about this team at the moment. On paper, they are a very formidable squad. GC1, GC2, GC1, so one of the more balanced teams in the league. I think that chemistry is going to be a very big thing for any sort of mid-range teams like this. So I haven't really heard too much about what's going on with them, so it's mainly just going to be a wait till I see them play week 1 before I make any like concrete thing on them. But for now, they're not very high on my radar. They're definitely just kind of, I wouldn't even say middle of the pack. I think that, to be honest, there's a lot of teams that could beat this sort of squad. And, you know, I think that either way, it could be win or lose. So, you know, very middle of the road type things. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
So- Go
sorry.
ahead, Docky.
Sorry. I want to fully agree with what you just said, Fade. I think this is a team I need to see more out of personally before I make any. That's okay. In the same way with you when you're talking about tiering them, you alluded to having them a little bit lower. For the same, it's me for the same reason, and that I think I need to see more out of this team in terms of just to be able to get a kind of idea of how they play around each other. I've heard of one scrim that they've done, and that did not necessarily go in their favor. I have experience playing with and around Hayes. In terms of, I've played a little bit with Golden, and then I haven't played with Drake at all. So seeing how the three of them play against each other, it's really a matter of just seeing how they manage their play styles. So we'll have to. That'll be one of for sure that I agree that we'll have to just kind of wait and see how they perform.
So I've heard of 2 scrims that this team has played, and it doesn't sound to me like either one of them went quite how they were hoping. So I feel like this is a team that has like one of those pretty high skill ceilings, but also a really low floor. So I think they could end up, this is kind of like one of those teams that's a bit more of a wild card. They could do really well if they're able to mesh together, but I think there's also a potential that if they don't quite mesh together quite as well as they hoped, that they could find themselves struggling a bit. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of a chemistry building with that team, but yeah, I don't see them being quite one of the strongest teams in the league this season, but I do think they could also surprise a lot of people. So we'll just need to wait and see with them, see what they're able to put together as time goes on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our consensus is mainly the same on that. So let's go ahead and move on to our second to last team, Twisted Tails. Liska, Joshi, and Baxis. And the more I have to say his name, the easier it'll be for me to remember how to pronounce it. I don't think I've said it wrong here in a little bit. And I noticed that Baxis is still SSL on my screen because I haven't changed over that file yet. But we will have his right ranking when league play starts. But obviously a very strong team. I like the Joshi and Liska combo. It kind of scares me a little bit with how EU heavy it is, but I want to know your guys' thoughts.
Okay, I want to, yeah, I know I mentioned that I'm a big Turtle simp, but this is probably the if not the first, the second team I'll simp over the most this season. I mean, Josh, my ex-teammate. I know we joke around a lot, but just a good friend and a good player, and just a goober. And Bax has been, and I know me and Fire say this a lot, but I'll never stop saying this, the most wholesome person I think in the league, and all around just good mental, and a lot like a high ceiling, and has the potential to be really, really good third on their team, even coming in at the Diamond 3. And then Liska, in my personal opinion, being the best C3 I think on the board in the draft. So yeah, they're going to be, I think, really good, and I think I'll definitely root for their success.
So I do have high hopes for this team. I did get the opportunity to scrim them. They were my team's first scrim. And I do think that they have a lot of work to do this season. I think they're going to be able to do it. So in the long run, I think they're going to be definitely a force to be reckoned with. I did see quite a few rotational inconsistencies with the team when we were scrimming them. I was seeing a lot of aggressiveness, especially coming out from Joshi in that game. I did see that leading to quite a few times where they were a bit overcommitted at times and leaving Baxis and Liska back in 2v3s, which is definitely not what I think the GC3s and SSLs want to be doing with their teams. But assuming that they're able to work that out a bit, maybe let Liska pull a little bit more weight since she wasn't quite looking as confident as she was last season. I feel like once they're able to work those things out, though, that they're going to be an absolute force to be reckoned with. Like, Liska is an amazing player. Like, as I was seeing in chat, she may be listed at C3 because that is her peak as of now. Her playstyle more closely resembles GC1, and she's definitely one of the best Champ 3s that were draftable last season. Heck, even out of the not draftable ones, she is one of, if not the strongest Champ 3 out there. And I think that they have a chance to really make waves, but I think they're another one of these teams, like, really, like, they could be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league, but they could also be one of the worst. So I think they're kind of one of those wild cards. I am definitely rooting for their success. Like, Liska is definitely a force to be reckoned with. Joshi, we all know how he plays, and Baxis, goated at the Diamond 3 rank, but it's all going to really come down to whether or not they can get those rotations down. So I think they'll be fine, but they're also kind of a wild card. So we'll see how they do. I think as the season goes on, they're going to be a team that has the potential to get better and better as the season goes on. So we'll see where they end up. Fade, what do you think of that analysis? Because I know I did kind of show you a little bit of what I was seeing just to kind of confirm that I was reporting back to my team. But Fade, what would you say about that?
Well, I would say that, one, you're giving out too much information because I don't want this team to do the best that it can. Here's Vaxis and Liska, my condolences to you, but I want some storylines in this season, and what better storylines than the SSL managers falling off big time, and that's what I want to see during this league. I want to see the top tier fall all the way down. So, Hammer and Joshy, if you guys could just stay off the game for like the next 3 weeks, besides when you have to play, and get super inconsistent, that would make my day. Obviously, I know that's not going to happen, and everybody's going to have to fight for their spots, and Joshy's team definitely has some work to be done, but I do think that once they kind of coalesce their game plan together, I think they're going to be a very strong team. I do think nobody should be sleeping on Liska. As a player, as we saw last season, Liska is insane when given the right teammate to work with. I think that a lot of the, I feel like a lot of it is going to be whether or not their teammates that they have this season are the right teammates. Because we know Aerolax was a very chill, very easygoing person. And on the flip side of that, we have seen in the league that Joshi can be completely the opposite of that at times. Very very competitive, also can be a little tiltable at times. So we're going to have to see how Liska deals with the mental aspect of playing on a team with them. Of course, having Baxis there as the chill dude, as everybody kind of says, the wholesome third, is probably going to help with that a little, but I still want to see the team play through a little bit of league play and see where the mentality is after getting some losses under their belt as well. And then once I see how they bounce back from that, then I can give my pure input on the team. But I definitely think that handling losses in a very what's the word? I'm getting some brain fog right now. They need to be able to handle their losses well. They need to be able to hand it decently and not like tilt out on it. And if they can do that, I think that they're going to be a strong team. Let's go ahead.
Fade,
oh, yeah.
There is one thing I thought you were going to mention, so I tried to leave it for you.
Oh, yeah.
But you didn't mention it, but they have 2 EU players, and you have to wonder whether or not that NA East ping is going to have any effect on them. Hopefully it doesn't, but you know, when you have your 2 higher ranked players both playing on that EU ping on those USE servers, hopefully that doesn't make any difference for them, but it might make things a little bit tougher for them, especially with you know, Liska being a very 50-50 heavy player. You know, those fine adjustments that need to be made for that, and Joshi being a very mechy player. You never know, but
I think it depends on the day, Fire. Because the one thing that we all know is that Joshi prefers East servers to EU. He considers NA freelo, which honestly, look at RLCS results. It's the truth. We're freelo right now. But along with that, I will say Liska did seem to have some issues playing on higher ping, and hopefully that will not mess up the team's rotations and anything. But they are going to be playing a lot on NA East this season. Of course, they will get the matchups where they will have alternating servers. Obviously, when they face Cloud9, that's where they would be able to alternate between NA and EU. So they will get some favorable matchups like that for those sort of instances. But at the same time, as I said, they will be playing on NA East most of the time, but Joshi prefers that. So as long as his internet is not causing problems on the day of play, then I think that they're going to be just fine. However, if Joshi's internet is acting up that day, then I would almost chalk it up to a loss for the team, because having both of them on like extremely high ping where it's very laggy, we saw last year that Joshi will just quit a game if that's the case, which obviously he can't do that right now because he's already in a bit of a predicament when it comes to rule breaking as it is. But you know, he just had to sit and deal with it, and that's going to be, one, very tilting for him, and two, it's just going to make the play overall worse for the team. And I think that would just end up, if you're going up against basically any other team that the league has to offer this season, that's probably going to be a loss for you. So you just have to play the best you can and hope that the game differential, just try to take it to a game 5 at that point, you know? Try to keep game differential as good as possible. And maybe you do eke out a win. So you can never count the team out, but I would definitely say it could play a factor, but I think it's going to be very unlikely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think the ping issue will affect them too much. I think Liska and Josh are both pretty experienced on NA East.
Yeah, I think Liska definitely is a super strong player. I do think there is a bit of a difference between Erlax last season being the player that Liska was playing with Rule No last season. Erlax is very good at like making the players around him better, and Joshi is more of a player that tries to puts a lot more of the workload on himself. So that's not to knock his playstyle at all, but I do think that I think this team's success is going to come down to how well those two are able to rotate around each other. So we'll need to see. So I have good wishes for this team, though. I hope they do well.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. And let's go ahead, because we spent a lot of time on this team. Let's go ahead and talk about our last team in the league, X3 Tactics. It's going to be Shy, Corrupt, and Rude Boy Brian. And obviously, for some reason, we don't have the... as I said, these player cards are not finalized. We will have the finalized ones with the top 3 for Season 0 and all of that and their titles on the cards. We're just getting that finished. I've been pretty sick, so I haven't had time to edit all the files. But we will get those going. But either way, I think this team looks pretty good on paper. Obviously, Docky, you have quite a high opinion of Shy. And I think you said before the podcast that these guys are dominating in the scrims that they've been having.
Yeah, I will be the talker to Javian when it comes to Shy. That's my teammate right there.
Oh my god.
Shy is a very good player. And in 2s and in 3s. And so I think getting a player like that at the GC1 level is a good pickup. And then we saw a lot out of Ruboy in the combine that I think looked really good for that squad. So, and then obviously Corrupt won the league last year. So there's that. Yeah, they're gonna be, I think, a force to be reckoned with. I think they've shown that in the small amount of scrims that they've played. Definitely looking forward to playing them in scrims. I definitely want to get some of that going at some point. See how we fare against them. But yeah, that's definitely a good squad.
Okay, so this team, I've heard a bit about them because me and Rude Boy Brian used to play a lot with each other, and by all counts, the vibes are good. Everything is going good for them this early on in the season, given it is still preseason. But yeah, you have 2 very strong players leading that team, and Brian, at least in my opinion, out of the Champ 1 Below players, was the best just support player coming out of the draft at those lower ranks. Just really pretty solid on defense, is able to buy the other 2 players time if they happen to overcommit, and I think that's a scary proposition given that you have both Shy and Corrupt on that team. So, I mean, we all know what Corrupt can do. We saw it last season. Shy is definitely a player who is extremely strong, even at the GC1 rank, and I mean, that's a scary team. They are a contender this season, according to my projections. So
For sure.
I think that they're going to be a strong team. I think it's one of those teams that I really don't have a lot of info on. I mean, Shy looked really good during the combine, and so did Brian. So I think putting them with a team like Corrupt or a manager like Corrupt is going to be a very good choice. I do want to see how the team is going to play in general. This is not going to be an I buy fursuits team. That team was very, very overpowered, and they were able to get away with a lot of stuff because of the skill level on that team. I don't think that's going to be the case this time, and I really want to see what their first couple of weeks of play look like. I want to see how other teams perform against them, because I think it's going to be a lot closer of a season in general, and I definitely think that this team, along with every other team, is not going to have as much of an easy time as they might think they might have. Scrim results are going to be good and all, but nothing really beats pure league results when you really get into the matches, when you're playing at 100%. Everybody is hard calming, everybody is mentally locked in, so focused on trying to get those wins. I think that we're going to be able to see a lot of upsets here. I think that any team beating Corrupt early on would be counted as an upset, seeing that he is the winner of Season 0. But we're just going to have to wait and see what the league has in store for us. And with that, that's all the teams that we have to talk about today. And so we'll move on to our next segment for now. And these guys don't know it, but I'm actually gonna have one extra thing to ask them at the end of this that they're not ready for. So I'm excited to do that. But before we get to that, big shout out to Sam from Black Bunny Gaming. He sent all of us a tier list of all the teams to kind of rank them where we thought that they might be in tiers based off of no scrim results, no league play, nothing like that, where we think that teams are going to be, like, going into the league. And we're going to start with Fire on this one, so I'm going to show everybody the tier list. And Fire, I kind of want you to just go out and explain why you have teams at specific tiers. So let's go ahead and get to that. This is Fire's tier list, everybody.
Okay, so this tier list is going purely looking into that week 1. I do think there are teams that might be ranked a bit lower here that if they're able to build chem and momentum throughout the season, they have the chance to go far. So if you find your team sitting in like C tier or D tier, don't you worry. That's just a lot of those are because I don't really know a lot about those teams. So yeah, there's a lot there that I'm like, I really don't know how Lumosity, Dignipause, or Persian is going to play. But yeah, BDS, they left the most amount of money on the table. I feel like they're the only team that I could really place down there that based off of their draft purely on paper, that they are looking like the weakest team out of the league. Persian, I put down there just because I feel like they have a really low floor, but they also have a really high ceiling. So they're one that I could see making a sleeper run. Twisted Tails, I couldn't help but go off my scrim with them. I think if they are not able to fix those rotations, that they are going to be a team that, albeit gets in a lot of high-scoring games, but might get caught out on the defensive end a lot and might end up conceding a lot of goals unnecessarily. Lumosity and Dignipause, I just really don't know anything about those teams. I don't know how they're playing. I don't know how their scrims are going. I don't know really hardly anything about them, so they just kind of... I just need to put them somewhere. So I need to put them there. Black Bunny and FoxClan are two of those teams that I can see them beating anybody. I can also see them losing to anybody. So I think they are kind of the ultimate wild cards this season. So they're kind of the B tier for me was kind of the tier. I could see them being on the lower end. I could see them being on the upper end. I just didn't know where to put them. Same thing with Lumosity and Dignipause. X3 has been playing really well by all accounts. Cloud9, we scrimmed them. They seem like a really solid team to me. And then naturally, Gentlepause is goated, so I need to put them at the top of A tier. But Awaptic, I know those players have all played with each other, so I think that they're, especially early season, they're going to be an extremely strong team. And I mean, Protogen Rebellion, the storyline, having the lowest ranked manager, having arguably the best team in the league, I think is just a storyline that I might be a bit biased to want to see happen. I think they have a good chance to be up there too. So that's kind of my reasoning on these picks. I mean, a lot of those lower teams are kind of teams that I feel like could have a really low floor, but could also have a really high ceiling. So I could see like any one of those teams making a sleeper run. So, I mean, that's really all I have to say. So if you see like, I see the chat going crazy, Cookie and Runeski, your guys' teams I could both see making a run. So don't count that as me knocking your guys' teams. You guys still got a good shot. I just need to put somebody down there. So somebody need to go down there. You guys still can make a run. So I think it's time to move on from my tier list, because if I think the most likely thing I think is to happen with that tier list is that all goes all over the place, and all the teams end up separate from where they were on there. So, yeah,
Docky,
I don't have anything else to say.
Docky, do you have any thoughts on Fire's tier list?
I mean, you put me at S tier, so I love your tier list. No, I mean, yeah, I think that a lot of it comes down to just not having seen, I think, a lot of the teams. So I agree. It's just it's things will change as we play through on. If teams are mid, and this will be the same for my tier list as well. The mid to lower ranks are just gonna be. I haven't seen anything from it. I haven't seen anything from the teams at this point, so it's really hard to tell. Although I will say having Dignitas that low is criminal. But you know, it's definitely we'll have to see as the season goes on. Nothing's changed.
All I have to say is that I feel like it's against, biased policy to have yourself only at A tier and not S tier. So, like, I don't... Is Fire trying to become known as the humble one of the league? Because, I guess that's a storyline for himself. But, obviously very biased towards Rystall. You can see that. But, not biased enough towards himself. We'll see if that plays any impact on the mental going into week 1. But let's move on to Docky's tier list here. Ooh. And Docky, go ahead and tell us why you have these players here or teams.
I feel like mine looks kind of similar to Fire's. Just a couple things that I think are different. I think we both have the same D tier. I think the B and C look kind of the same. Again, it's kind of the same with the C and the D tiers. It's more so I just haven't seen really anything out of these teams. It's really hard to tell how they're going to perform. Just not having seen much from them personally, so it's kind of a wild card whether they're going to be great or not. So B and C tier is more of the, or I guess B, C, and D tier is more of the. My guesses, I guess, if I was going purely on budget and the specific picks. So yeah, I put just again same with Fire, I put BDS down the D tier just based on budget alone. Obviously that can change dramatically if we scrim them or week 1. I just haven't seen much from them. Same with, I agree with what Fire said about Persian 1, but with that kind of lower floor but a really high ceiling. So it could be, they could be an S plus ranked team. They could also be a D ranked team as well. Just really depends on how they come together. As for those kind of B to C ranked tiers, it's really hard with just, I think all of those teams could be really well. They could also be middle of the pack. Lumosity, X3 and Twisted Tails all being, I think, really good teams that could play really well. Just a matter of if they're able to get their rotations in and get their chemistry going. I think specifically with Lumosity, I think that Airlex and Gala have the potential to work really well with each other, along with with Howl coming in there as that third person, as that third man, or as that third coming in. They could perform really well. Just it's really hard to know with Airlex not here at the moment. I kind of put X3 down there and C tier as a joke because I can't rank Shy higher than that because that's my teammate and I gotta underestimate them for their own sake. And then I put Joshi. I was gonna put Joshi in D tier as a joke, but I think that team will be pretty decent. So we'll just have to see from them. Going to B tier, Gentle Pause I think is a lot of potential. We'll just have to see. We haven't really scrimmed them for real. I've played against their team, but with an overpowered lineup on our end, so it wasn't really fair to judge them. But I think they could be really good, but they played really well against an overpowered team, so we'll see how that goes. But again, it's just a matter of seeing how they perform against a balanced team. And same with Black Bunny. They have the potential, but again, I haven't really seen much from them, so we'll see if they're able to come together. And then the same again with Cloud9. That's a very balanced team, so they're in B as a balanced team, I guess. But we've scrimmed them once. It went pretty even, or I think it was not a blowout one way or the other. So a good team. Again, just have to see more out of them, I think, as time goes on. So a lot of potential there. Just not really seeing much to put them above B tier. I haven't seen anything that says this team could win, top 3. So I didn't really feel there was the potential there. Again, that could change, a week from now as that team gets more and more well versed around each other. I had to put Fox Clan in A tier because that team could be scary. And the same with Protege and Rebellion. These are the two GC2, GC3 teams. Two of the GC2, GC3 teams. There's so much potential for those teams to do a lot of damage. So there's a high ceiling, kind of a low floor in my opinion. I think they'll be middle of the pack at the worst, and at the best they could be incredibly dangerous. But man, yeah, those teams could be absolutely terrifying to play against, and could be also manageable to play against. So it's hard to tell, but I had to put them in A tier just because that's with that GC3 GC2 combo is just can be really scary. And then I put myself in S tier because obviously we're gonna win the whole thing. I mean, I gotta believe that, right? And then Dignipause, man, again, Sylvie, fantastic player. Kilo, insane champ player, and then Kiki showed a lot of potential. So that, in my opinion, jokes aside about my own team, Dignipause probably has the potential to be the best team in the league, in my opinion. That team is going to be, if they can get their rotations in line, they're going to be almost unbeatable, in my opinion.
So, Docky, I do have one question, because it looks like your graph or your teams are a bit skewed towards the lower end. So if you were required to, I'm giving you a chance to redeem yourself here.
Oh no, what I did?
If you needed to move like one of those lower ranked teams, like B and below, up to A, who would it be?
Yeah, I want to know this too.
Okay, all jokes aside, I'd probably put X3 up to A. But it's a matter of just seeing what people could what they're able to do. I with it being so early in the season, it's really hard to tell, I think, who has the potential for that. So
well, that's a very interesting tier list, Docky. I have to say.
I think both you and me can agree, Fade. Not the best tier list. Not gonna lie. I don't think so.
Not the best tier list, I gotta say. Very kind of biased to themselves a little bit. I don't know exactly what's with all that, but I think my tier list is gonna be a little bit better. But let's go ahead and take a look at my tier list. I got a special one for you guys. This one's going to be very interesting. So as you can see here, you got the best boys in Cloud9. You got the okay boys in Genopause and Waptic. And all you other ones, y'all just stinky. Y'all just stinky. And also, this is not my actual tier list, guys. But, I just thought of it on the thoughts, and I wanted to see everybody's thoughts about this one. Obviously, you guys in the okay boys section, I think that's fair. Everybody else, and just a bit stinkers,
Whoa.
Calling me a mouse and everything in chat. Like this is what you guys deserve. Either way, guys, this is gonna be my actual tier list, which you will be able to see here in a second, because you can't see all of it. But we will get it to show you everything. But you did get to see the start of it. And don't take what I say as, fact, because, I'm kind of dumb myself, so I can't really make the most valid tier list possible either. But I do think that this one is going to be decent, and I am ready to show that one now. So let's get into my actual tier list. And it's gonna be here. So obviously, I think we gotta address the S tier first. Cloud9 and Fox Clan. No bias at all, but these teams are gonna dominate. These teams are gonna dominate the league. I think Genopause and X3. I've heard that X3 has some really good scrims, so I put them up in A. Gentle Paws, playing them specifically, I think that they look like a strong team, so I definitely see them taking some wins off some of these lower teams. Obviously, there's no way they're beating me or Fox Clan, so they had to go underneath me. Awaptic, I definitely think is a B tier team that I could move up to A tier as long as the right results happen. But these B tier and C tier, honestly, I could see both of these tiers kind of trading wins with one another, which is why they're in here. And these teams are not in here with any sort of order in mind. So it's not that I think Aloptic is like the best of the B tier or anything. I think that all of these teams have the potential to outshine one another and either get wins or losses against the respective teams. Obviously, BDS is kind of a wild card, as is Dignipause, so, and Luminosity, as they haven't played games so far, so I can't really say anything on them until I see results. And then as for D tier, Persian 1 is down there because I have heard of a few results in scrims that have been less than favorable, and I don't necessarily know where the team chemistry is going to be just yet. As for Twisted Tails being down there, I'm the certified #1 Joshy Boy hater. I have to put him in D tier or else he won't succeed. So he'll thank me for that later. But yeah, what's your guys' thoughts on my tier list, I guess?
Well, I personally dislike your tier list, but probably for the same reason you disliked mine. No, I think that I agree. I think we all have the same sentiment that we have to see a lot more from teams to be able to. This is all purely based on pure intuition. So it's really hard to tell for a lot of these teams where to put them. So a lot of the mid, everything kind of lands in the middle right now. So we have to see a lot out of more teams. But we'll have to see, I think, how things play out. I don't think it'll go to any of our expectations. I think we're all going to be surprised. So that's why we have a long season, though.
So, Fade, I think I kind of like your tier list. I think it was pretty good.
The first one or the second one?
Both.
Perfect.
But I do think that something that's going to favor your tier list early on, at least according to where I had teams, you had the Claude 9 roster has one of the easiest starts to the season, at least according to my own projections, which is sure to go horribly wrong.
Of course.
But yeah, you guys have one of the easiest starts to the season according to my projections, and I think that could make your tier list look a bit stronger than what people might expect early on in the season. Now, it is a long season, though, so things are very much subject to change as time goes on. So,
and with that, you've actually segued me into the perfect transition for this. So, you were talking about how we might have one of the easier starts to the season. Well, let's go ahead and get some predictions from you guys going into week 1. I want to know, as you guys can see on the stream right now, this is going to be the schedule for week 1. I would like you guys to go ahead, and we're going to do this on the desk during week 1 as well. So you guys might change your answers, but as of right now, I would like to know your predictions on each of these matches.
You want to go match by match, or
yeah, match by match. We'll just do a quick series score. We're not going to do anything too elaborate. We're not going to talk about it, really. No discussion. I just want to know quick and easy who wins, what's the series score.
Who are we starting with?
We're going to start up here in the top left, X3 Tactics versus BDS.
Okay, I personally will predict this going 3-1 in the favor of X3.
3-0 X3.
Okay, I'm going to go 3-2 X3. I do think that they're going to be a little bit stronger. Let's go to the next match, which is actually our featured match of the week. Black Bunny Gaming versus Twisted Tails.
Okay, this is a tough one. Yeah, I'll say 3-2 Black Bunny.
I'm going to say... I'm debating between 3... Yeah, I can go 3-1 Black Bunny.
Well, we're very same on the desk here. I'm actually going 3-0 Black Bunny here.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the next one. Once again, guys, we're not going to have any discussion on this. That's what the desk is going to be for during the pre-show and during the actual league play. For now, we're just giving our predictions. So, on to the next one. Cloud9 versus Persian 1, and I'm just going to go out there and say it 3-0 Cloud9.
I will say 3-2 Persian 1.
Ooh. 3-1 Cloud9.
Good to have the support. Dignipause versus, I almost call it by their actual team name, Protogen Rebellion. This one's close, honestly. I think either team could take this one. I'm going 3-2 Protogen Rebellion.
I'm going to say a solid 3-0 Dignipause.
Ooh.
3-2 Protogen. Docky, you're crazy.
Okay, Fox Clan versus Awoptic. I hate to I hate to do this to you, Docky, but 3-2 Fox Clan.
3-1. Or I'm sorry, 3-2 Fox Clan.
Close one. Last one. Gentle Paws versus Lumimosity. I'm going 3-1 Gentle Paws.
3-0 Gentle Paws. Easy GG's.
I will go 3-1 Lumimosity.
Oh, okay. Some bold picks coming out from the podcast crew. And a GG Easy from Firestreak. A little toxic if you ask me. Admins, what's the call? It's fine. It's fine. He didn't mean it. Either way, guys, that is it for the RFDL post-draft podcast. I hope you all have enjoyed hanging out with us as we share our thoughts on the teams going into season 1. We will not be having a podcast next Wednesday because there really won't be anything for us to talk about. So the next podcast will be 2 weeks from today after League Play Week 1 has concluded. It's going to be a bit different. We're going to have some MVP of the week stuff to show off. We're going to have some top plays of the week to show off. It's going to be a little bit of a different format. I hope you guys will enjoy it when it comes. I'm very excited to get the rest of this season underway, and it's less than a week, guys. We're just about to come up to the start of League Play Week 1. How excited are you guys?
Oh, I'm so hyped.
I mean, it's time to play. Enough speculation.
Yeah, as Aerolax always likes to say, I'm just ready to see some great Rocket League, and I'm sure that all you guys are dedicated to bring that to us, and I'm sure that Week 1 is going to be fun, full of close matches, some silly own goals, and the good old NA production that we are used to. But for now...
Uh-oh.
Oh, there goes Fade. I mean, we had to have NA production strike at least once, didn't we, guys?
Yeah, well, it is, at least it is the end of the podcast that it happened.
Yeah, what the heck? NA production! It had to have happened. But as I was saying, I don't know when I cut off.
Like at the very beginning of your sentence.
Oh, well, as I was saying, we're all ready for Season 1. It's going to have some great games, some great goals, some great own goals, and good old NA production, as we all just saw. But that is it for now, guys. So we will see you next week for the Season 1 start with Week 1. And for me and the rest of the desk, have a good night, and we'll see you then.
Have a good night.
I do need you. do need you. I love you, I do need you. I love you, I do need you.